There we go. All right, so RadicalxChange. So maybe before I start, I wanted to ask you how many people are familiar with either the book Radical Markets that was written by Glenn Weilen like 2 years ago, or the RadicalxChange Foundation. You know. Great. So I will first tell you where that come from. I've been not so long with the foundation, and I did not introduce myself. My name is Fanny Lakoubay, and I'm now helping RadicalxChange with some communication and everything else that we're building in operations. So it all... Oh. Shit. Pardon my French. No? Okay.
No, just use it.
No, okay. So it all started with one book. So it was Radical Markets, and actually the caption is important, like uprooting capitalism and democracy for a just society, because as hard as the book is to summarize, these are just propositions to make that happen. So Glenn Weill wrote that book. He's a researcher. He works at Microsoft, and he's also a researcher at Princeton. And he also got involved a lot with blockchain and a lot of decentralized ideas that would be able to experiment with his concepts and see how decentralized governance and decentralized technology could help implement his ideas. Then Vitalik became involved as well, and they wrote a paper together called Radical Liberalism. And I encourage you to come back at 4 p.m. where we're going to talk about that with people from Ethereum here and people from the foundation. We can really go deeper into the concepts, much more than I can, to be very honest with you. So first, read the book. It's a great book. It proposes things to not, make something else or like destroy capitalism, but use ideas, like capitalist ideas, to make a fairer system. So kind of a third way, if you want, for the future. And then RadicalxChange is the foundation that Glenn actually started after the book to push the ideas forward. And these are like a few ideas from the book. Again, like this, we can go into like a few if you have questions, but there's like more quadratic voting is a different ways of voting, like without so much bias. There's data issues, data is labor, data dignity. There's also issues on visas and immigration, and then the most famous, because it's the first chapter of the book, so most people just read one chapter and stop there, is cost, which is a version of the Harburger tax, meaning that it's a different way to think about ownership and like individual ownership, where to own, to keep a good that you have to pay tax on it. And then if someone, it's always on auction, so if someone outbid you, then you have to sell them the goods. So it's very bad and very short summary, but these are some ideas that we're trying to push forward. And then the foundation approach is like any foundation, like I'm sure Max will tell you the same, is really to educate people about these ideas, connect, and I think this is very important. That's what attracted me to the foundation, is this, and then maybe it's more common in Europe than in the US. I live in New York, and in the US you're, politic talks to politics, like economists talk with economists, technologists talk with technologists, but you never have a gathering where people like activists, politicians, economists, technologists, artists, philosophers talk together. So I think that's like connecting all these worlds and like having a thorough discussion is like really what you need at this point in time. And then convene, there's a lot of meetups, and we're trying to see how to make them more efficient because there are a lot of them everywhere. And then an annual conference that I will tell you about. So I'm gonna pass a lot on like what we do in all these different, you know, like sections. But it's very important to like summarize clearly these ideas from the book, because not everybody wants to read the entire book. Fair enough. So a lot of the meetings are like about sharing these ideas, explaining them through games. So there's a cost version of Monopoly, which is, oh shit, 2 minutes. Okay. So I will go fast on that, because I really wanted to tell you about the conference. So we had a conference in Detroit last year in March, which gathered like 400 people, a lot of crypto people who tried to take over the conference but did not manage to. And then it's going to be in Sao Paulo this year. So that's like very good like mix of people, as I said, a big team getting there. And then it's like the important fact for the like news from the foundation is that like Glenn Weil, so the author of the book, kind of step back to professionalize and like the foundation with the CEO and Jennifer Moron, a woman CEO. So that was a great decision. And then Matt Pruitt was the president. And it's very decentralized. It's from, Jen is in Berlin and Matt is in California, and with a big team. So we're all like volunteers and like super enthusiastic. So I'm sure like DGOV, like. One thing that I wanted to tell you as well is that one thing very important is how we spread the word. We set up a few guidelines on how to set up local chapters, and it really spread around the world with like many different people taking ownership of RadicalxChange ideas in their cities, finding local applications, getting back ideas to the foundation, and this is really iterating that like really worked well, and now we have like almost like 150 global chapters. And yeah, so we will get more into details this afternoon at 4 p.m. So if you're interested, get involved and read the book. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I assumed you had a question.
Yeah. So. Yeah, thanks for the presentation.
Sorry, I was getting for like longer.
We organized with Give It one in Barcelona recently, and it was really a lot of fun. But what we did see is like because it's just something that we wanted to start off the chapter in Barcelona, and then we said like, hey, while we're busy on Give It and the Commons Stack, who here wants to like continue this? And we do see that it's difficult for people to like step up because everyone has their own activities and their stuff. So, well, yeah, small pitch. We're working on the Commons Stack. We want to work on continuous incentivization
for people to continue.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, like, what are you guys currently doing? How are you raising funds? That's always my main question.
Yeah. So I can't really tell you a lot on like fundraising because this is mostly Matt who is doing that. There have been a lot of donations around the conference, which now helps to like, have people work on the website and not like volunteer, because that's the same. It's like after the conference, we worked for like 6 months for like days and nights. And then at one point you're like, all right, well, you guys like kind of have to make a living somewhere. So then after the conference, it was like nobody was like, so we had to rebuild the team and the incentives. So totally okay to explore on that. And then we are working on like very, you have 2 levels. You have the idea level, like there are a lot of like theoretical and people who like love staying at the research level, but some people to be involved is like, okay, what are the actions? What can I do tomorrow? And it's like, we're really trying to like figure out the 2 steps, because some people work like, I'm more like, all right, let's do it. And like people are like, okay, it's gonna take time. Let's theorize and see that. So it's a work in progress. So any feedback, again, it's not me telling you. It's kind of everything together.
Thanks so much.
No, thank you. Oops, sorry.